Everyone remembers Watch Dogs for the big moments. Blackouts swallowing Chicago, bridges snapping shut, helicopters falling out the sky. But what feels fresher to talk about now isn't the spectacle. It's the quiet aftermath the game never lingers on. The invisible civilians who live inside Aiden Pierce's hacks. Think about how casually you pull out the phone in Watch Dogs 1. You tap a button, a bank account drains, traffic lights flip, steam pipes explode. Mechanically, it's empowering. Narratively, it's framed as justice or necessity, but the game also feeds you tiny pieces of information about the people around you. A man late on rent, a woman hiding a medical condition, someone struggling with addiction, someone just trying to make it through the week. Then without hesitation, you take their money or ruin their day because the system lets you. What's interesting is that Watch Dogs never fully judges you for this, and that silence says a lot. Aiden isn't hacking faceless clones, he's hacking a city of fragile routines. That guy whose savings you emptied might miss a bill payment. That driver you forced into a crash might lose a job or worse. The game doesn't show you the consequences, but it plants the seeds by telling you just enough about their lives to make you feel uneasy if you stop to think. This is where Watch Dogs 1 quietly becomes more disturbing than it looks. CTOS isn't just villainous to the computer, it's a mirror. It reduces people to data points, probabilities, and vulnerabilities. And when Aiden uses it even for personal revenge, he's participating in the same dehumanization he claims to fight. The system is evil, sure, but the real discomfort comes from how easy it is to use once it's in your hands. There's a moment many players barely register. Standing on a sidewalk, scanning strangers, doing nothing else, no mission pressure, no combat, just reading lives in passing. In those moments, the game almost dares you to slow down, to realize that this power isn't heroic by default. It's invasive, it's tempting, and it feels justified because the interface makes it clean and frictionless. That's what still makes Watch Dogs 1 relevant. Long before constant data leaks and algorithmic profiling became daily news, they asked a question without spelling it out. If you knew everything about everyone, would you act differently, or would you justify anything you did with that knowledge? Aiden justifies his actions through grief and anger, but the player doesn't have those excuses. You hack because you can. The tragedy isn't that Chicago is under surveillance. It's that once surveillance becomes normal, empathy becomes optional. Watch Dogs doesn't force you to be cruel, because it never rewards you for being kind either. It lets you exist in that grey space where power feels personal and consequences feel abstract. And maybe that's the most honest thing the game does. It doesn't preach, it doesn't punish, it just hands you the phone and waits to see what kind of person you become when no one is watching, except the system that always is. What people don't really talk about with Watch Dogs 1 is how lonely that game feels, and I don't mean in a sad cinematic way. I mean the kind of quiet loneliness that creeps in when you're standing on a rooftop at 2 a.m., rain hitting the concrete, city buzzing below you, and none of it feels like it belongs to you. Aiden Pierce is surrounded by people constantly, but he's never really with anyone. He moves through crowded streets, hear conversations, scan profiles, read personal details, and yet there's this emotional distance that never closes. The city talks at you, not to you, and the more power you gain over it, the more detached everything feels. What makes this hit harder is how the game structured your movements. You're always traveling alone, and even when the story involves other characters, most of your time is spent driving in silence, listening to the hum of the engine or the low music, the radio. There's no crew banter, no companion system, no one checking in on you, just Chicago stretching endlessly ahead, and Aiden locked inside his coat and exhaust. That isolation starts to feel intentional. Aiden's entire identity is built around control. He watches instead of participates. He observes instead of connects. The phone becomes his buffer between himself and the world. Instead of talking to people, he hacks them. Instead of trusting anyone, he monitors them. And the city responds by feeling less like a home and more like a machine he operates. Even the side activities reinforce this feeling. Crimes pop up, you intervene, you disappear, fix a contract ends with you driving away alone. Gang hideouts clear out and you're left standing there with the wind and the sirens in the distance. There's no sense of celebration, no acknowledgement, just another empty space reclaimed and immediately forgotten. Nighttime makes this even stronger. Chicago at night in Watch Dogs isn't warm or inviting, it's cold, reflective, almost hollow. Neon lights bounce off wet pavement, NPCs rush past without looking at you, and the city feels alive in a way that doesn't include you. You're not part of it, you're hovering above it, watching through cameras and lenses. What's powerful is that the game never spells this out. It never says Aiden is lonely. It lets you feel it through repetition, through silence, through the lack of human warmth. His mission is personal, but his methods push him further away from everything human. Revenge becomes routine, and routine drains meaning out of it. By the time the story reaches its later moments, and the emptiness almost outweighs the satisfaction, you start to realize that even if Aiden wins, whatever that means, there's no version of this where he reconnects with the city he's been tearing apart digitally. He knows everything about it, but belongs nowhere in it. That's why Watch Dogs 1 sticks with some people and completely misses others. If you're only looking for action, it feels stiff. But if you slow down, if you listen to the empty spaces between missions, the game becomes this quiet character study about a man whose control over connection and ended up with a city that responds to its kind. Chicago is always watching Aiden. The tragedy is that no one is really seeing him.